Hello, guys, and welcome. This won't take long. I'm super excited for you to present you with this actual recording of one of our group classes from our Siro AI sales call review, this coaching class. I wanted to give you a quick excerpt of what to expect on this. As you can see these points on the screen, we're going right into showing you what Siro AI looks like. An actual client scenario works through this with us on the call where they're handling the email it over objection. We're going to role play that objection handle where our coach, Joseph, the sales bot Lucani, will lead on the first role play. Then our client reverses the role play and nails it, playing the part of the electrician in that one. The whole class goes wild. Huge props for him. Then Coach Joe actually upgrades the handle to show our client Dorian how he could do it better. And finally, there's a bit of me in there as well, helping with this $2.5 million sales mindset and how we're going to reverse some of the anxiety and the nerves that we're getting to our client Dorian and showing him how to unlock from that and begin to knock this one out of the park as consistently as possible. With that said, enjoy, guys. We'll see you soon.
Right?
Yeah.
You caught on the initial hesitancy. So I'm gonna pull back to the screen again. I'm gonna show you where exactly it's coming from. Okay. So we're gonna go this. Forgive me for taking off the chair. Now, there was a moment right here where he said initial hesitancy. He was like, that would work. Now that's an initial pause moment, and you addressed it. But I want to be more specific with it and say, well, hold quick time out for a second. I only want to do this if it's absolutely perfect for you. So is there anything I'm missing, or is there any hesitancy that I'm not aware of? Because that just immediately addresses it, right? You did something which worked. It was like, hey, are you sure that would work? That's good. But then going a little bit further into it. Okay, that's the first thing. Because we'd want to question why there's a concern. Now, the second thing was he said the reason why he wanted to email it over was he said a time concern. So you initially said, I'm going to come back, I'm going to do it. And he goes, well, can you just send it? Okay, well, and I'll just review it. That'd be an easier option. Now, when someone says, well, that'd be an easier option, we agree and say, oh, I completely agree. Like that would 100% be an easier option. I appreciate you even be willing to do that for me. Because normally what we do to serve you at the highest level before, during, and after is we always insist on doing an in-person experience so you know everything you're actually paying for. That way you know you're not making the wrong investment. So you're agreeing, but you're also reframing. And then what's the next part?
Ask again.
Ask again. So with that being said, when would be the best time we can get together for this? Right? Now, the next thing is we go further. He made a shift where he said, he said, for me, I'll have some, he doesn't really know. He's stumbling here. Now, there's two things. Granted, it could be an English barrier, and that's fine. Like, I'm not judging that. But it didn't seem like he was struggling to find the words. It seemed like what he was trying to do is come up with a reason why he could justify the email it over. Because he's stuttering here. I don't know how much time it's going to take, but I'll have to go inside pretty soon. Right?
Yeah.
So we need to figure out why. Because if he's concerned about time frame, well, then why don't we have a thing? Right? So let's get into that. I would actually love to role play this situation with you if you'd be down for it.
Yeah, for sure.
So what we can do is, this customer. You know what he was saying. You know his mindset. Get into Mr. Aravov's head, right? I want you to be him.
Okay.
We're going to get back into this presentation. We're going to shift how we would do it. And then you can take it from there. Is that fair?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. But first, before that, does the feedback sound accurate to what you experienced as well?
No, for sure. 100%. That's exactly how I was feeling in the moment. And I think whenever I don't know how to handle the objection, I just make it easier for them, so it's not super awkward.
Yeah. And there's no shame in that. There's absolutely no shame in that.
Yep.
Because
accurate.
We need to find clarity, right? Because I want to know why he can't do it now. Where does he have to go? Is there an interruption to time? Last thing I want to do, like, if he needs to go now, okay, well, that actually works out perfect.
Yeah.
It works out perfect with us. So I can come back. So let's get into this. What I'll do is I'm going to start right here, and you can offer to email it over, right? You ready to go?
Okay, I'm going to be the customer, right?
Yeah. You're going to be the customer. We're going to role play, and then I'm going to be Mr. Aravov, and I'm going to bust your chops. Okay.
Yep.
So we're going to see it in real time. Thank you, by the way. Like, I apologize if I'm coming in hard and heavy. It's just, I'm super excited about being here with you. You
Yes,
know?
sir.
Okay. You ready to rock and roll?
Let's do it.
Okay. Give me 1 second. All right. So what we're going to be able to do for you today is we wanted to meet and determine the best time we can get together to discuss these options. So normally what we do is we design a complete range of choices from the finest you can have to the most economical you can do. And then we meet again so you can have the time to really understand what you're getting involved in. When would be the best time for us to make that happen?
I mean, today would, I mean, I guess is there really a way that you could just, email it? I mean, I'm definitely gonna need some time to look at the different options and everything. And,
Hmm?
I don't know if I have the time to do all of that right now.
I completely understand where you're coming from. And that would make complete sense. I mean, obviously, we're going to be making a pretty big investment in designing these options and really going through them. So, yeah, there's absolutely no pressure that you'd have to review and make a decision immediately. But do you mind if I ask you a question?
Uh, yeah, that's fine.
Have I given you any impression that you had to do this immediately? Like, originally, we actually said this wasn't a time sensitive project, right?
I mean, in terms of the getting the job done, like I really want to get it done.
Okay.
But I just need some time to look it over.
Okay. So, why don't we do this? Obviously, there's absolutely no pressure for you to do this. This actually works out perfect in my stance as well. Because normally, what we do is we'd going back to the shop. I'd sit down, I'd crunch my numbers, and I would design amazing options for you from the absolute like best we could possibly do all the way to the most minimal you possibly have. Then what I'd do is I'd come back and I'd make sure that you and your wife fully understand what we're getting involved in. That way, each individual option will be explained, you'll know what's inside them, and you'll have the time to reflect on them. And if you're still completely unsure as to what to do, there's no pressure to have to move forward with it. All I ask is that we are willing to pick out the one you like most. Would that be fair?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Well, hold on.
And
Time out. I don't ever want to make it seem like you're being forced into doing something. I sense some hesitancy there. Is there a reason that you wouldn't want to meet together?
I mean, not really a reason. I think I just, I guess I would just want to have it emailed over so I can just look at the options myself.
Mm-hmm. Is it that you don't want us involved when we're discussing them?
Uh, I mean, I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay. Well, this is how we come to serve our customers. Obviously, the goal when you work with Hayes is we serve you before, during, and after. So us being able to come back and explain each option is actually part of the service that you're investing in. The reason why we do this is because we want to ensure that you have a full understanding of what you're investing in. Make no sense to just say you have to do it immediately. But at the same time, what we can do is after we reviewed it, we've taken the time to go through it, we've discussed it. If you're still confused or not sure what you want to do, I'm happy to take the time to email the options that you're comfortable with. So with that being said, when would be the best time for us to sit down and review this?
Uh, I guess I work Monday through Friday, and I'm not off until 4, 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
I guess sometimes next week. What do you guys have?
Well, we can figure something out then. So you're saying just on the same page, you work 9 to 5. So the only time you'll be able to connect is after 5 o'clock?
Yeah, and I mean, we also have my kids, and I don't know, man. This just seems kind of complicated.
I can understand where you're coming from. And actually, if that's how I've given you that impression, then I need to apologize. Because the reason why we do the things we do is to make your life easier, not more difficult. So can I just explain why we prefer doing it this way? And then if that's not what you want to do, we can take it from there.
Okay.
Okay. So there's more than one way of getting this project done. And as the electrician, it's my responsibility to not only educate you on what's going on, but also on the ways that we can address it. Things that can be better for the future or things that can be more economical and temporary. We don't want to make that decision for you. We simply want to let you know what the options are, and you're free to choose whatever one you think is the best fit. If you're not the kind of person that does things immediately, that's okay. I'm not trying to pressure you into making something happen. But what I'm not comfortable with is just sending over our options for you to translate and go through on your own. Because then if there is something misunderstood, it could affect how we're perceived, or it could mean that you make the wrong investment. So something I'm not willing to cut corners on is the customer service that we've come to stand by at Hayes. So I am willing to come back, but it would require us to really know that we're going to be doing this together. So before we move forward, if you don't want to do that, I'm not going to pressure you to do that. But if you'd like to work with us, it requires us being able to serve you at the highest level. And that requires us doing this in person. Would you rather do it right now, or would you rather us come back at another time?
We can do that another time.
All right, there you go. Did you break, Dorian?
Dude, I mean, you just have some crazy stamina, man. Like, whew, to like go back and forth that many times.
Yeah. Okay, something happened here. Something very, very important happened here. And Dorian, I want to explain the concept of this because you've experienced what a customer is going to experience. Show of hands. Who here has ever played a game of chicken? That's not what I'm talking about. Yep. Everyone's got that pool party chicken game. You know what I'm talking about, right? This is the exact same concept. What we're doing is we're actually running head first, where the customer is trying to out-endure us. He wants to do it his way, and he thinks his way is the right way. But we, as the electrician, we know that this is the right way to serve our customer. So we're not breaking from our path, and he's not breaking from his. But if we refuse to bend from our path, he either needs to get out of the way, or he needs to come into a full-on collision with us, right? The thing is, it's the endurance that allows that to happen. So pretty much what's happening is you threw me the ball. Can you email it over? I've acknowledged it, and I passed it back to you. The faster I can get it back to you, the more you, the customer, have the mental load of having to go through these objections. You're not in subconscious mind now. I'm making you consciously think of what's going on, which requires a lot more mental energy. Clay said it best, and I've been using this ever since. Pattern interrupts are incredibly important. People have a fixed way of thinking on something, and when you make them think outside that box, it can be a lot of a mental load, but it's the required load in order to make sure that they are able to move forward with it. So, in conclusion with that, you felt tired, right?
Yes.
Okay. Your customers are often going to be tired if they're trying to fight getting served the right way. Because I absolutely refuse to give you anything less than a 5-star experience. And emailing it over and letting you figure it out on your own is not a 5-star experience. So you're going to have to outrace me. And I'm not going to bend.
Mm-hmm.
So if you refuse to bend, your customers, once again, they have a choice. Either I'm going to do it the way Dorian wants, or I'm going to fire Dorian. And often it's just easier just to go with you.
Mm. Yeah, buddy. That's yeah, I'm gonna need to that man, it's like that just completely changes my mindset when it comes to objection handling now. I mean, it truly is just an endurance race. I mean, especially when you can keep, what is it? Acknowledge, reframe, and ask again. And it's literally just continuing. Or honestly, it's like you were saying the same thing every single time, but you were speaking more. Yes, and you were acknowledging I guess, the rebuttal that I had every single time. And yeah, okay.
Awesome.
Can I add a little something to this quick?
Sure, by all means. I have a mental thought, but I'll write it down. It's all good. Go for it.
I don't want to interrupt your flow, Joe. That would be dangerous.
You know how my brain works, right?
You can handle me like an objection if you want, right in this moment.
No, go ahead. Do your thing, dude.
Sure, I give you space,
I'm gonna write it down.
Okay. There is a basic pattern. Speaking of pattern interrupts, that you guys all know intimately already about this because it's your pattern. Think about the last thing you felt compelled to buy, even for a split second. Maybe it was an ad in your feed. Everyone's pattern at this point, because we're marketed to and advertised to so often, is actually first interest because of relatability, and second, the reason I won't do that thing.
Mm.
If you didn't have that second impulse, guess how broke you'd be? Extremely. because marketing is really good these days. There's some bad stuff, don't get me wrong, but people have figured out the human psyche. The great news here is that you now know this. Pay attention to your own buying style and notice, hey, I'm attracted to this thing. And then the second thing I came up with was my first objection. Here's the crazy part. Most people, when asked a layer deeper, which is what Joe just did through a series of questions, you didn't really understand your own objection.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't. It's an impulse. It's a pattern. So again, that pattern interrupt is just taking them a level deeper to ask why that exists, really.
Mm.
And challenge them to look at it in another way with you and to explain why they're doing things. Most of them don't know, and that's, to Joe's credit, why it's such a heavy lift for them. You know this. So while it is an endurance for you, it's not as heavy of a lift. It's just a little awkward because they're completely against you in this brief moment, and you're having to cause a pivot.
Yep.
Does that help view that at all?
No, for sure. It does. Because I mean, just like you said, like it's easy up until you go that next step. And then at that point, it's like either, like Joe said, either they're going to get out of the way or they're just going to go with you. And most of the time, they still want the thing. So they're not going to be looking to get out of the way. Like they still want the thing. They still want to go with you. They're just not going to basically do it their way, in the way that they're accustomed to doing it. So that makes a lot of sense.
You know what they don't. You're the best. And if you succumb to just online sending it over, email it over, then you couldn't possibly be seen as the best. You're going to be seen like everyone else. Joe, tagging you in. Thanks, brother.
No worries. I think that was actually a great ad. I like to, and I'm glad that actually you took first, because I wanted to shift it into an area where there's a specific part in the process that if you ask certain questions, you will be able to prevent this specific objection. Now, the framework required is your why needs to be bigger than their why not. What that means is you need to be secure in why they need it. And you have to understand it from a multi-perspective. And in doing that, then what you can do is then answer it in a better way, right? So I'm going to pull up the screen share. I'm going to tell you specifically where these questions are coming from, okay? So let me pull up mine. Okay, I'm going to scroll down. Okay, it's the walking to the panel. And I'm going to break this down in a couple steps, right? So the first is we've established we're going to the panel. Now, we need this customer to be in motion. We want them to go first, and we want them walking while we're asking this question. This is an open question for everyone, because this requires deeper thinking. Why do we want them in motion before asking important questions?
So like the subconscious answer comes out right away.
People often struggle doing two things at once mentally. It's a taxing assignment. I mean, why do you think when people get a DWI, they make you say, I'm going to walk the line or toe to nose or say the ABCs? Because it's hard to do two things at once mentally. So you're walking, and while you're walking, you're asking a question. They now have that mental strain, which makes it harder to lie to you. And if it's harder to lie to you, their voice inflections come out. They might let something slip, and we're going to hear it. So can I tell you the questions that would be and how you can interpret this to help you in the future objection handling? Okay. So the first is, why did you decide to change what you have now? 2 words. Why did you decide to do this now? If they didn't decide to do it now, they're going to object to that, right? They'll be like, well, I haven't decided to actually do it yet. That we're just exploring it. Or, well, the reason is, and they give you the reason. So now you can speak to that reason in the objection. Remember, I asked, well, is this no longer a time-sensitive concern? And you're like, well, I mean, I still need it done. So I understand your why. You needed it done. But you questioned it. I mean, they may say like, oh, well, it's just, it's about time. Well, okay, well, how many years has it been like that? How long have you been living with this situation? How long have you been without this system? Why did you decide that now was the time to make the change? So we're going into it again, like, Okay, you've lived with this. You didn't just like, this isn't, I just moved into the home and I'm going off my inspection list. You've lived here for a little bit. Why did you decide that now is the time to take that action? That's the deeper question, because you're pushing past the initial BS answer they're going to give you. Now that we've got them actually considering it, we now have our third dimension of this perspective, which is, okay, well, fair enough. I can understand why you're doing it. Just sake of argument, just so I know, I want to play devil's advocate here for a minute. What would happen if we just left it the way it was? Like, why spend the money? You're arguing their reason that they're going to give you. So then when they get the price objection, the time objection, you have what they stand to lose by not having this. So you have the what, you have the why, and you have the what if not. So at the end of the call, when they're like, well, I want to email it over. Okay, well, has anything changed since when we first started here? Because if I recall correctly, this was something that we were planning on doing in the near future. So clearly I must have done something to have changed your mind. What have I done to have made you change your mind that this wasn't the right decision? Or I want to take some time and wait on this. I'm going to get some other estimates. Well, I can completely understand where you're coming from. It might make sense to do something like that along those lines. But if you don't mind me asking, how soon did you say you needed this done when we were here? Yeah, no, we can't go without hot water. Okay, so how would you like to proceed? And then at the very end, the very least, well, what if we didn't do it? And they're like, maybe we just don't do it. I mean, hey, I originally said not do it. Like, we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
But what did you tell me? Why did you? I mean, I remember you fighting me on why we needed to do it. So why, what was that reason? Yeah, no, I need to get this taken care of before my tenant leaves then. Okay. Well, unless anything changed, how would you like to proceed? But you have the keys, you have the answers. So you can't skip this part of the process because it allows you to answer those specific objections at the end. Sound fair, guys?
That's huge.
Awesome. Truly my pleasure with that. Now the fun parts of that, Dorian. Now you got to deal with it.
There we go.
Okay. So can we give Dorian a little love before he gets into it?
You want me to get a turn now?
Oh, you most certainly are going to get a turn. And here's why.
Right.
I want you guys to understand something very, very important, right? You're all here at the gold level because you chose to be here. You chose to have me go through your stuff with a fine-tooth comb and make it better. I'm going to inspect what I expect. And that means I'm going to test you to ensure that it's the right way. Because I love you and I want to see you succeed at the highest level. And that means I sometimes have to do things that may be a little uncomfortable.
All right.
Ready to do it?
Hey, I'm driving. I can test. All I want to share is this, Dorian. Being uncomfortable is what is getting me to solve these 3 platinums, man. I believe you. Go for it.
Appreciate it, bro.
Let's get it. Dorian's that guy. We all know that. Look at the chat, man. Just look, like you're surrounded by people who want you to succeed, and you're being in an area where no customers are present. This is it. You're among the elite. There's nothing to lose here. So you ready to take it? You ready to take a swing?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right. So is it possible you could just, go through this and email it over?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to help with that. And honestly, I can definitely see how that would make my job a lot easier. But if you don't mind me asking, is there a reason why you are wanting to have this emailed over?
Well, I like to just look things over, I don't make a decision on the same day. Like, obviously you're saying there's more than one way to do it. I'm going to have to review those just to make sure I know the right one.
Completely understandable. And honestly, I want to apologize if I made you think that this was a decision that you had to make today. So I do want to ask, is there any day next week that I guess would work better for you guys for me to come back over and go over all of these solutions with you guys?
I mean, if we had to, sure, but why can't you just email it over, man? Like I don't really understand. Like, is it something you could schedule the appointment and then email me before?
I definitely could do that, but here at Hayes Electrical, one thing we never do is cut corners on our customer service. And if I were to just email this over to you, I'd actually be making you do my job for me. And that's not something that we believe in. So what we do is we like to make sure that we're offering you a 5-star experience, which means we're doing everything in person. So that way, if there's any questions or concerns, we'll be here right in front of you to get everything addressed, and we'd be able to go from there. So with that being said, what would be a good day next week for us to come back over and go over this with you?
Well, okay. If that's the way you got to do it, then that's fine. So, I work a lot. I'm also really busy. So is it anything that you can do maybe like after I get out of work, like after 5 o'clock?
Oh, absolutely, man. So what we do is typically our hours are from 8 to 3:30, but for you guys, I'd be more than happy to accommodate an evening appointment for you guys. So what time do you typically get home from work?
Well, I mean, we work from home, so obviously it's not like we have a big commute. But I mean, like my boss Clay, he just pushes me all day. So it's one of those things where like I work the full 10 hours.
Okay.
So like I'm pretty shot at the end of the day. So I need at least like 30 minutes to kind of decompress.
Gotcha. So let's just say that typically a day might end around 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And you need about another 30 minutes. How about we just schedule this for 6 o'clock? I may even bring some pizza over for you guys. We can have dinner together. How about that?
That's actually awesome because I don't have to cook that night.
Exactly.
Phenomenal. All right, let's just do it.
Awesome. Let's do it, man. I'll go ahead and get you guys scheduled and boom.
Nicely done, Dorian.
Dude, I want the
done.
pizza.
There you go. The pizza sold it, right? There you go. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Honestly,
that was great. That was really good.
You guys see that right now?
Crushed it. I didn't expect that either.
Yeah.
Because
Hey, I'm hiring.
Chime in and say that. That was really,
Dorian,
really
I'm hiring.
Get it. All right. Now, in that role play, I actually know, first off, 9 out of 10, man, phenomenally done. I would have bought right then and there. I only noticed one way we can enhance it. Nothing wrong with what you've done, but there's actually one other thing you can do to build massive value, because you actually devalued yourself in a way. So you said your normal hours are between this and this, but for you, I'll make the accommodation.
Yeah.
I want to do the same thing, but a little different, right?
Okay.
So I'd like you to ask me to do something at a certain time, whatever the time is. I don't care. Just tell me to do something at a certain time.
Yeah. Can you come over here around 6 o'clock?
What day were you thinking?
Wednesday, 6 o'clock.
All right, so like next Wednesday at 6? Let me take a quick look. Okay, let's take a look here. I mean, I have to move that out of the way. I mean, I get that. I can move this. Okay. All right. I'd have to move something personal, but okay, I can make that happen. So what I can do is I can move some personal things out of the way in order to come after. Like normally we'd spend the time with my family, we'd having dinner around that time. But I understand this is an important part. I want to make sure you understand what you're getting, and I'm willing to commit to that. So I'm willing to give you that time, 100%. I only have one request. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So I got to move things out of the way ahead of time in order to do that. Can we just confirm that like you're not going to cancel this appointment if I come out? Because I'm going to have to move stuff in advance.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay, cool. Well, if that's the case, then I'll move things on my end and we'll make it happen.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Why that?
So, I mean, it's communicating that you're going, I guess, above and beyond to accommodate their needs, which I think could be even a preview of the overall experience that they would come to get with your company also. Yeah, I mean, that's what comes to mind right now.
You're right.
Yeah.
So there was the initial thing. I'm willing to move personal things. I said, well, I have to move personal stuff out of move out of the way. So I'm also showing I'm busy.
Yeah.
I got things going on in my life. There's no Monday through Friday. I'm free. But for you, for this situation, I'm willing to move some personal stuff and come after hours because I feel that that's what's going to be required to do this job the right way. Now there's some value in that. So you're actually building your case rather than removing it. All right. Now, Dorian,
Can I add,
hey, go ahead.
Can I add one positive?
Yeah.
You did something specific that is maybe natural to you, Dorian, that I wanted to compliment. When Joe mentioned his time constraints,
you didn't just focus on your time, which is really common of people. You focused on his constraints and acknowledging them as well. You repeated them back to him, showing that they were important to you too. I thought that was above and beyond exceptional.
Man, appreciate it. I'm
Now,
trying
Completely.
now we need to do a pattern interrupt.
Yep.
Because I feel like there's something that needs to be said here.
Mhm.
I'm compelled. So when I'm compelled to say something, right, the will comes into me. I need to say it. So we're just going to give you this insight, okay? What you just did in front of all of us isn't what you did in front of the customer. I expected much, much less from you today on this call. So I have a hard question for you.
All right.
Why? Why, when you get in front of a customer, do you still get nerves and not do the things that you know that will work for you?
I think I'm in the moment. I think I'm just more concerned with like losing out on the, I guess, relationship and the way they view me. So me going at them kind of just feels I'm naturally just an easygoing guy, like, yeah, whatever you guys need, and that's more natural. So I have to intentionally think about sticking to what we do. It's just a little difficult.
If they don't choose you, do you have a relationship?
No.
So what's that saying you always say, Joe?
Can't lose, never had. The thing is you didn't have the job, right? Yeah. You're worried about losing something that's not tangible yet. He hasn't bought anything. He has not even seen a price. How can he disqualify you at this point? Yeah. And if he does, because you're trying to serve him at the highest level, what are the odds he's not going to give you a price objection? So what you do and why your closing ratio is going to become so much higher is because you're only going to be presenting to people who you know respect your time. If he doesn't respect your time, of course, he's not going to be willing to pay the investment. So by you sticking to it, I said it earlier, your why we're doing it this way has to be bigger than his why you're not doing it this way. He's going to want you to email it over, and you have some clear reasons in his benefit of why we don't do that. And if he can't agree with those things or respect your logic, you don't have the sale anyway. So pushing is not what we want, but being committed to a positive result is what we're looking for. And you can't bend from that commitment.
Yep.
So I've got one more question to help you with this. If you sold 2.5 million last year, following this exact process, would you still have those nerves and those inclinations, do you think, to shortcut yourself and to not stay in that endurance rate?
Honestly, when you as soon as you ask that, probably not, because I wouldn't be worried about potentially losing out on the sale. Yeah. So if it wasn't an issue, I would say, okay, well, they chose not to work with us. On to someone who does want to work with us,
Well, in this class, then, let me just say this. You just handled that like the apprentice of a $2.5 million electrician. Right? Anyone disagree with that? Right? Like, put your hand up if you thought he rocked that. Everyone in here except Chris, who's scratching his beard. It was the consequential thing. His beard was really itchy. No, I'm just going to abandon that. Okay, so everyone here agrees. So the only person cutting your legs off is who?
Me.
To learn more about how we help, visit us at milliondollarservice.com.